Welcome to the Market My STR Show, the show made exclusively for short-term rental owners and co-hosts that actually works, so you can stop wasting time and money on short-term rental and co-hosting marketing strategies that don't work. Listen in for tips, tricks, and our book solid, move the needle, and core 4 marketing strategies. Here's your host, Scott Hill.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I'm losing track of episodes, Jeremy. We are so locked in on episodes well beyond what people say, or all the people who have predicted our demise would have predicted that we would have stopped, but we're still hanging in there.
Yeah.
I think it's probably episode 15. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm good. I think we're past counting.
Okay, we're past
Just
counting. No more
weekly
counting.
thing, right?
That's a great idea. Then I don't have to remember or look back or anything like that. Anyway, welcome to the Market My STR Show. If any of you haven't listened to us before, first-time listener, welcome. This is where we talk about all things short-term rental ownership and host. So if you are a host, if you are an owner, if you're both of those things, if you're a manager, this is where we try to help you do the same things that we do at Market My STR, which is we help you get more direct bookings. We help you leverage your time. We help you build better relationships with your guests. One thing that we've been doing lately, a lot lately, actually, if you've been listening to our podcast, we've been focusing heavily on co-hosting and small property management because Jeremy, who has become really my official now co-host of this podcast, we are building a co-host together company, and it is down in 30A. It's called Altvare. If you guys ever see our captions, sometimes we miss it in our editing, but it is ultvare.com. And the co-host we're building together is by virtue of us learning or getting to know each other via Market My STR. Jeremy was a subscriber to start. He's been a very successful owner and host in the Poconos. I had a dream to start a co-host in 30A and eventually in Salt Lake City area. And I asked Jeremy if he would help me, and Jeremy has agreed to do so, and we're all in. So we're going to talk about our journey at another date, but we have something much more important to cover today. And before I announce who our guest is, I want to check in with Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you?
I'm great. Excited for everything we have coming. I would say, for being truly honest, currently our co-hosting business is Tennessee and Connecticut.
Right.
Eventually to be focused down in 30A, but we'll get there in time. But I'm excited to have a chat today.
Right, and I think in our next episode, what we're going to do is what we've called this as optimistically as we can for 2025, unless we fail. We've committed to calling this the year of preparation, and it's been too long, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the bright side. In our next episode, we're going to detail all the things we have done, with knowing that there's one thing we haven't done, which is we haven't gotten our first client yet.
Right.
Any other thoughts about that, Jeremy?
No, I think you nailed it.
All right. So with all that, we have a special guest today. He is a special guest for a lot of reasons. When I first met Michael walked up to me. I had met him probably briefly over a Google Meet or a Zoom call. He was part of Bill Faith's community. I had met him. He became a subscriber. He trusted us with our platform and became a Market My STR subscriber. And then he showed up at one of the STR Wealth conferences, walked right up to my booth, gave me a hug, and said how much he appreciated Market My STR and how it was making an impact on his business. And honestly, ever since then, not that he needed to say thank you for us to be friends, but we have been friends ever since. So much so that now Jeremy, Michael, and I and Dan are all part of a co-hosting accountability group. So we see each other all the time. We are walking through life together now as business owners, trying to help each other maximize our businesses, our families, and all that. So Michael owns a company called Stay with the Saades, and he has had some real success in that business, and he is in the same journey many of us are in, which is optimizing that success. So, Michael, welcome to the Market My STR Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
So,
long-time listener, first-time caller.
Well, behind the scenes, we've already said we are going to do 2 episodes with Michael. The first one, we're going to get to learn about Michael, what he's accomplished, all the things that he's done that makes him an unbelievable elite co-host in this industry. And our second part 2 is going to be a lot of, hey, what are the lessons you've learned along the way that make you the co-host that you are, and the lessons you're still learning to make you better. But Michael, let's unless you have anything that you want to say before we get started, we could just kind of get into the interview, and then you can just we'll lead and you can follow. But the real hero of this episode is going to be you. We want to learn, we want to know about you, and we want to pass on what you know to others. Okay.
Well, appreciate that. I really appreciate that you're going to boost my ego before I have to get vulnerable with you guys, and it be publicized.
The good before the ugly. Yeah, we won't ask you to open the kimono until like everybody hears the good stuff.
I don't know if they want to see the kimono, but I'll share it.
All right. So Michael, let's get right to it. Start by telling your story. How did you get into short-term rentals, and what led you to opening your company?
Yeah. It's kind of a wild story. First of all, I want to say I would not be here if it wasn't for my wife, my amazing wife, who is 9 months pregnant. And I'm surprised she's even good with me being gone from the house for a while. So really, that's the root of how we started. Patty and I had gotten engaged. We were, in the midst of COVID. I left the corporate world, not by my own choice, but because of shutdowns. And we really kind of decided we wanted to build something and start investing in real estate. And on that journey, we decided we wanted to, do a short-term rental. So we started our first short-term rental in late 2020, early 2021. Had great success with it. It still is the top producing property by bedroom count, even with bedroom counts bigger than it in the area. And that success, led to our first client that said, "Hey, I'm not using this house enough. Let's just put it on Airbnb." And that's how Stay with the Saades got born. We said, well, we can't run that revenue under the same company, and it went from there.
So
Nice.
I may have missed it because I kind of get focused on my next question. But do you own any properties yourself, Michael?
Yeah, we now own 2 properties. We own one short-term rental here in the Northern California area, and then we own a condo in Panama City Beach, Florida.
Well,
Gotcha.
it's a testament to what you're doing. The fact that you bought in 2020, 2021, because that was kind of when nobody could miss, right? Like we came out of COVID and everything was crushing. I think there were memes, right? You could put a tent on the side of the road and sell it for $1,000 a night. But the fact that you've been able to keep that up, right, and still be one of the top producing in your market is impressive. So,
yeah, thank you. It's been great. I think the combination of my background and my wife Patty's background has made it work really well. So that's been really the big thing that works well. So.
Mike, you got to be crazy to start a business, as we all know. You got to be part crazy, and you're officially crazy because you jump out of planes. So, like, just tell the audience. Not now. Everybody knows you jump out of planes, but tell the audience how many times you've jumped out of a plane
or just
on your own, like without a gun being put to your head.
Yeah, I've somewhere near or above 2,000 skydives. I've got, at least 150 base jumps. So jumping off of a fixed object, that's a lot shorter than an airplane. Airplane's 13,000 feet, where a base jump's anywhere from 250 to, a few thousand feet. So.
All right, Jeremy, take it from here.
Crazy. Yeah. Well, just to hang on that for a second, right? A lot of people do talk about having to take that leap from corporate to being an entrepreneur, and clearly you're not afraid of taking a leap. I think the last time we were together in person, I think you were joking around about maybe base jumping off the top of the condo building of the new property you just bought. And
yeah, it's funny. One of our biggest clients, who's also a good friend, him and I base jumped together, and when the last time we were there, we were kind of scheming. So it's a little short, but it's doable. And I think just to say that you did it would be fun. I don't think the HOA president would like that, though.
Yeah, it's probably not ideal, I would think, for the HOA. Cool. Well, we'll jump into some of the questions we have here, and if there's anything outside of these questions you want to add as we're getting into it, feel free. But why don't you, just to kick it off, kind of tell us what your business model currently is? Scott and I are starting this co-hosting company, and it's a little bit of a hybrid, ultimately. Although I don't know if we've officially made a change on one thing yet, but I'm still pushing for it. A hybrid between full service property management and the co-hosting model. So kind of how has your business developed from when you were running your first one to bringing on your first client to kind of where you are now?
Yeah, well, that's a good question because we have changed over the years. When we started, we were escrowing funds because we didn't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
In California, there's some gray area around whether or not you can escrow funds, and if you have to be licensed or unlicensed. So
Right.
when we started, we were escrowing funds. I got my real estate license in the process. And as I kind of read through some stuff, even though it's a gray area, I just didn't want to touch it. So that's
Yep.
when we moved to the co-hosting model. But I don't think co-hosting really is any different than a property manager outside of how you do
Right.
your reporting.
Right.
So now we use both models. We'll own some of the listings, but we don't hold the funds. We were able to set that up so the funds pay out. And for some of the clients that we serve, they own the listing. We're the primary host, and those funds get split out. On the Airbnb side, they get split. On the Stripe
Mm-hmm.
or the direct booking,
You invoiced.
VRBO, anything else, it goes right to them, and then we invoice them after.
Yeah. So a
We
little bit of a mix, it sounds like, right?
Yeah,
Somewhere your clients own the listing, somewhere you're owning the listing. Some payouts, I guess, come to you directly, some go directly to the client and you
no,
invoice.
all payouts go to the client. We
Okay.
take our split, and then for anything credit card, anything that we're technically the processor of record, it goes right to the client, and we bill afterwards. Just to steer, I want to
Right.
100% steer clear of that gray area. Sometimes I wish I mean, there's people that operate without a real estate license at all in
Yeah.
California that just
Right.
kind of like live in the gray area, but I just
Well, I think
it,
you could, with your license, I feel like you'd be fine escrowing funds at this point.
with a broker's license, you can, not with a
Mm.
salesperson's
So
license.
you'd have
So,
to work under a broker.
well, even then, you still have to have a broker's license, or the broker has to be the processor.
Right. You'd have to
So,
bring that person in.
as much risk as I take, it's also calculated. So I didn't want to build a business model that
Yeah.
that someone from the state or an agency said you're doing this wrong and we're going to shut you
Right.
down.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, that's the thing that Scott and I are going back and forth on at the moment of, do we collect the funds or do we not to collect the funds? I'm leaning towards collecting the funds, which, we have to do a little bit more research on Florida, but either we partner with a realtor that allows us to do it, right? And they would have to get a little bit of the funds, a little fee, um, for giving us that service, or one of us gets our license if it's just having a license.
You know,
Um,
the way I understand Florida, you do not have to have a license.
right.
You don't have to be a broker. So I think it
For
it
now.
depends on the client. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. For now, I think one of being able to control the money, in my mind, seems important.
Well,
Like,
I
because
can
right
tell
now,
you
are
when
you
I
paying the cleaners? Are you paying the handyman? Are you paying for all the supplies, doing all that, and then invoicing at the end of the month?
yeah, my accounts receivable monthly, monthly revolving is well over $8,000.
Right.
And at any point I could have an accounts receivable budget of over
Yeah.
$25,000. So
Sure.
that's operating budget that we have to fund ourselves, that we're not
Yep.
charging interest on.
Right.
Which is it's the tough part with the co-hosting model. That's where I think people need to recognize that and really realize that I think some co-hosts pay out of their owners, credit cards and all that. And
Right.
we could do that to make it much easier. Some months, when I look at the
Yeah.
billing,
I think that's the biggest challenge with it. Have you tried streamlining, being able to bill your clients or invoice, like you invoice them and it charges them on like a card or something, so you're not waiting that 30-ish days for them to pay you?
it's something I've thought about. The challenge for me is I don't, I think we have great relationships with our clients. but I always worry about disputes and having to
Mhm.
fight a dispute or getting hosed for $5,000.
Right.
Because that's probably about the average. I'd say the average bill, depending on the property, is about $2,000 to $2,500 a month.
Right.
So I don't want to be out that money, because the average bill is for most properties is more than I make and my
Right.
co-hosting fees.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, understandable.
I prefer ACH or Zelle, or they could send a check, but
Yeah. Yeah. So when I had my properties in the Poconos, I kind of had a mix where I started as full service property management. I was collecting the funds, and then I did switch to the co-hosting model, and I was for the most part using client credit cards to pay for things. I think in thinking about it, and I haven't asked them, I don't know if they did anything with it, but in thinking about it, it ends up being a lot of transactions that they now need to take care of on their end, right? If you're
well,
doing
yeah,
it that
the
way
bookkeeping
versus,
side for them is a lot more work.
right.
I have a pivot table. I'm pretty analytical, so I
Yeah.
enjoy Excel. I have a pivot table that I've created, that the clients can take, and it gives them a P&L. Basically, they can hand to their accountant. All they need to do is put in the bills that they pay on their own.
Right.
But at least that way, it's simple. I try to simplify it that way, the way a property
Sure.
manager would.
Nice. No, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. So it's a mixed model. You had told us, your first client came on board, essentially because they saw how well you were doing with the first one that you bought.
Yeah.
How many properties do you have now that you're
So
co-hosting for
we're
slash
co-hosting
managing?
6, and then we own 2. We're at a total of are we at 9? We're hold on, let me count. 2,
It's a good thing when
3,
you when you
4.
when you don't remember.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so we're co-hosting 7, and we own 2.
Nice.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
No, that's great. So I was in the same boat. I think at one point I was between owning and co-hosting 13. And every time somebody had asked, I never remembered how many it was.
Yeah.
It happens quickly where you can't remember.
Yeah.
So how'd you go about getting those? If you have 6 co-host clients, assuming you still have that first client that you brought on, like how have you gone
Yep.
about bringing on these new clients? Like how have you found them?
Most of it is actually been cold calling. We got we have a little bit of referral business. We've had one client that we brought on, and actually we decided to let them go. We just did not mesh well together.
Right.
That
Yeah.
was really challenging because I hate to walk away from business, but it was a big time suck. So
Yeah.
um yeah.
Okay.
The big thing's been cold calling. We've gone after, like properties that are underperforming under, bad management, or people that are self-hosting. We have a couple of leads that we're working right now of people that are self-hosting and just kind of tired of it.
Hmm.
So those are great ones too, because you can typically, if they've missed the boat on a few things or they're missing marketing, you can typically get a good uptick right out of the gate for them.
Yeah. No, and we're doing the cold calling as well. We haven't found success with it yet, but we're still pretty new into it.
I
And I
I
think I
think
came to the realization recently, and I mentioned it probably on one of the other episodes, that it's probably something, if you're looking to start a co-host company, you need to do from day one. Like you need to start
yeah.
cold calling.
I
Yeah.
wish I had continued to cold call more and never
Yeah.
stopped. I tried to lean a little bit too much into the
Person of interest.
uh not only person of interest, but into the agent side, and it
Hmm.
really, I had a business in the past that I started and shut down just because I didn't feel like it got enough traction. And the biggest learning for me there was business development needs to be um an everyday process and mindset, where, and I've adopted it even too late. I'd say it was stay with the Saudis, but it's really now, every day you have to be thinking about business development and what
Right.
you're doing, because people aren't just they're not gonna just show up and knock down the door, and in
And
my
it,
corporate marketing experience, I worked for such big brands that we never really had to think about, like, what do you do to build a brand, and what's
mhm.
that take on a daily basis. So that's I'd say that's been my biggest learning is I just should have been doing it earlier. And
Right.
now, I've obviously, I set a weekly goal for how many cold calls I want to make or how much time I want to be cold calling every week.
Right. Which sometimes can be easier said than done, right? Especially when you're in peak season
Totally.
and
Yeah.
you're in the weeds. All of a sudden
Or
your day has disappeared. And I've had this happen a few times. I'm still working at kind of a W-2 where all of a sudden it's like 6:30, 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And I'm like, I didn't make any cold calls today. Like it's too late. Like I'm not gonna be the person that's gonna call super late. So trying to find that time to make those calls is definitely a challenge.
yeah, it's hard to prioritize, and there's I would just had this conversation this morning with somebody in the real estate world that there's a mindset in the real estate world that what we do is just so easy, and
Right.
it's so far from the truth. I mean, you start something like this and you are touching every pillar of a business. You're doing marketing, you're doing business development, you're doing operations, you're doing financial management, and like you have to be a data analyst. There's so many things that you have to do weekly, and it's really easy to get lost on those other tasks and forget, hey, I've got to go do business development.
Right.
Um, so
Bookkeeping tends to be the thing that I hold off on and ends up being a
yeah,
last
yeah. I
minute
just
squeeze.
spent the last on our stay with the Saudi side. Our books are done every month because of clients, but
Sure.
on the property side, I just spent the last 2 days like catching up bookkeeping. That I mean, I hope Bill Faith doesn't see this because he'll probably chew me out for not being done on the 5th of the month.
Right. Um, yeah. So I agree. I think there's a lot of people out there on the internet that are in business in general talk about like, the 4-hour work week and how achievable it is. And, focusing on the short-term rental market, like you can't just, maybe in 2021, you could throw anything up on Airbnb and make money. And now it's such a competitive, a competitive place to be in pretty much most markets, that people go into that, um, it's definitely, you might have a 9 to 5 as a employee, but it's definitely a 24/7 gig until you can elevate yourself out of that
Yeah.
position because you've grown enough to now you can hire certain people and delegate the responsibilities.
Well, and
Um,
I think one of the challenges in that too is, you say, okay, my goal is this many properties, and if I'm making whatever my percentage is, if by adding 4 properties, I'm just gonna have this much more money, but you don't realize, the cost of growing and scaling and
mhm.
adding the software, and you have to add people a lot quicker than you realize, even if it's contract help just
Yeah.
to manage the load. So, there's a lot of that people forget about.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Well, that's kind of a perfect segue into my next question because I was going to ask, you know, you're at 6 managed now. Where do you think you'd like to be, say, like a year from now?
Um, my goal for the end of this year was to be at um 8 managed. So we missed that. We have a few weeks left, but with a baby coming, I'm not
Yeah,
super
you're
focused on business
gonna give
development.
you a little strap for time here pretty soon.
um, but I would like to see us between 10, 10 and 15 max by next year.
Sure.
Um, we definitely, there's a few that don't do as much revenue, but we love the owners,
Hmm.
that are, I think would be tough to let go of.
Right.
But just knowing what it costs us to grow, that's where the struggle is. But I'd like to settle at about 15 and kind of get that dialed before we go any bigger than that.
Sure. Maybe at that point, kind of pumpkin plan the owners that you have,
Yeah,
make
exactly.
those hard decisions.
Yeah, the goal
Uh,
was never to do anything super big. It was to balance the time,
right.
with Patty, my wife, working as a nurse. Um, you know, she works 24 hours a week if she doesn't pick up any overtime.
Yeah.
So we wanted to be able to have a little bit of lifestyle with young kids and meeting older to have, a business that was allowing me to be home more because in my past life I was traveling, 60 to 80% of the time I'd never be home with the kids. I'd be gone always.
Yeah. It's
And that
tough.
doesn't work with a nurse's schedule either. So
Right. Yeah. And I think, what you're talking about is one of the things that a lot of people gravitate towards Bill Faith on, right? The fact that he preaches you don't need 100 units, right? You can get the right units and build that life, that you're looking to have. And initially when I started in the Poconos, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna get 100 units. It doesn't matter what they are. And I quickly learned that was a big mistake.
Yeah,
So,
it's tough. Those smaller properties that are more price point, you a lot of the times bring in a guest that can take a little bit more work for you.
right. Yeah, for
And
sure. The
those
little ones
time
actually
sucks are
probably take more
really
time.
challenging. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You lose track of how much that sucks your time
Right.
when you've got 3 properties like that are turning, 3
Yeah.
reservations a week.
Right. And there's only so much you can do really on the revenue side, revenue management side. And if they just don't have the amenities to compete, it just makes it that much
Yeah.
harder.
100%.
Um,
100%.
so most of your clients or all your clients right now are Tahoe area? Is that
No, well, we've grown mainly around the Sacramento area,
right?
and just in this year, kind of really started to focus on Tahoe, and wanted to be in more of a vacation market
Sure.
um, that didn't have some of the challenges of being in an urban area, like the Sacramento region. Plus, Tahoe is it's a part of Patty and I's love story. We love it there. We want to own there,
Sure.
but right now it would set us back. The financial commitment just would not
Right.
allow us to continue to grow the way we want to grow.
Nice.
So we
Well,
decided to focus on growing in Tahoe.
yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I've never been, so maybe one of these days I'll have to meet you guys, or we'll
Yeah, we'll
throw
we'll
throw Nina and Liv on a plane. We'll come hang out in Tahoe.
we'll do our own accountability meetup there, just for
Right.
our 4 families.
Perfect. I might need Scott there, so it's a business expense, but we'll see.
Well, that I
Um,
mean,
I think you could write it off as a business expense if you went yourself. Although I'm not saying I don't want to go, but like
yeah.
fact
um,
finding operation you were going on there.
well,
yeah.
you can. I mean, once we develop a little bit more, you can come learn what we're doing so that you apply it when you guys
Right.
grow to Salt Lake.
Exactly. There you go. Perfect. I like the thinking. All right. So focused on Tahoe and probably get to 15 in Tahoe, right? Max 15 in Tahoe. Or do you think,
Max 15. I would like to start at 5 to 6 in Tahoe. I don't want to. The one thing I've learned, especially through COVID, watching everybody scale, is they grew too fast and
yeah,
they lost guest experience, and that's the one thing we don't want to lose.
right.
We've been really proud of most of our reviews, even when someone had something wrong or kind of had a negative review. No one's ever said they didn't respond.
Mm,
Communicative, we had an issue with this. We rarely get those, but we really pride ourselves on being available to the guest
sure.
because we started as guests. And we just,
Yes.
we want to be available.
Yeah. No. And I think being a good host is one of those things that weirdly, and not really weirdly, but I guess just because of scale, those large traditional property managers, miss out on a lot. A lot of the reviews that I'm reading down in 30A for some of these companies, there is a lot of management was terrible, never responded to us, or said they were going to do something and it never happened. We never heard back. So, um, and that was actually something I was going to ask you how you separate from the competition, and it sounds like that's probably one of the ways you're doing it. So do you think you would expand at some point outside of Tahoe and Sacramento, or that's kind of where you think you'll live?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, there's a vision to do a little bit more.
Yeah.
But right now that's the main focus. And we wanna own what we're doing and do it really well. If we can grow bigger than 15 and feel like we can have the same level of service that we provide, yes, we'll do it. But
Right.
that's solving that problem we haven't figured out yet. And we will. I mean, that's just part of growing is you have to
I
figure out
think
how to solve those
that's
problems.
getting those systems in place, right? Is being able to do that.
Yeah, it's systems and people. It's finding the
Right.
right people to that can execute what you want to execute.
Right. Right. I know we're both struggling with some of that at the moment of, what's harder, this finding the system or the person. Um,
Yeah,
but
totally.
you'll definitely get there. So, we kind of went through plans. where you're at right now, how big of a part in your business is technology? Like, what would you say are kind of like some of the key pieces of technology that without you probably would struggle?
Yeah. I mean, like everybody else, we have a property management system or a channel manager. We have, pricing, dynamic pricing.
Right.
We have lock software. We, all the units are on digital thermostats.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Who do you use to automate the thermostats? Or are you doing it manually still?
Links can automate it. We're doing most of it manually,
Yeah.
just because the programming the automation sometimes is a pain where you can
Sure.
just go in faster and flip the switch,
Right. Right.
or dial down the thermostat. Um, and but our lock software also can do thermostat, which makes it nice. They're just a little bit more expensive, and
Mm-hmm.
I've heard a lot of people that don't use a lock software, but I've found it's saved me more than it's hurt me. Um,
Sure.
so
Yeah. No, I
yeah,
think a lock software is kind of mandatory these days. Right. Like
absolutely.
if
Yep.
you're not, you need to get that in place right away and start changing the codes after each guest.
Yeah, yeah, and I've heard of way too many people not changing their lock codes,
Right.
and that's such a safety concern. And then the other thing we're onboarding right now is been Host Buddy, and I
Yeah, I was
really
gonna ask.
enjoy Host Buddy. It's already in the last week saved me a ton of time of it. It just those messages of, hey, this isn't working. Oh, well, here, go to the Host Buddy can send them to the guidebook or send them the guidebook link. Oh, hey, did
Are
you check this
you
section of the
are you
guidebook?
letting it auto send messages at this point, or is it in like draft mode? You review it, you send it out.
Unfortunately, with Host Buddy, there's no draft mode.
Okay.
So you've
Throw
got
you
to
right in.
train it, test it, and then you turn it on. Or the nice thing with Host Buddy is you can schedule it. If you only want it to respond to messages overnight, you can do that as well.
Right. Yeah, I've heard people doing
Um,
it.
but for me, we're just training it to avoid certain questions. It has topics to avoid, and it'll just alert you. It sends me a text right to my phone and says, "Hey, you
Yeah.
got to deal with this."
Right.
Um, it'll integrate with Notion. We're not using Notion at this point, but we have a vision to
Sure.
down the road at some point.
Yeah.
So it's got a great.
Notion's a little bit of a lift to learn for some people.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And I
yeah.
think, where I think you guys have done a great job learning and developing some stuff. I've had to be in the same boat as Dan, who's part of our accountability group, where business development has to be more of a focus for me over the next few months.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, we're learning Notion. I'm in the next week gonna try and get an initial um, setup for Notion for us to start putting our SOPs in, doing things like that. Um, you're missing one big key piece of software.
Well, the last piece of software, which I hadn't gotten to yet, was Market My STR. So
Yeah.
that's I'd say as important as my property management system for me. It's a central hub for my business.
Right.
That we use for guest CRM. Obviously, we do retargeting marketing for every guest after they check out or sign into our Wi-Fi. We manage our CRM for our co-hosting leads. So that's all managed in a pipeline. Social media posting, contract signing, all of my websites, direct
Yeah.
booking pages, everything's in Market My STR. I have my guidebooks in there as well, because it saved me money of paying for a guidebook, and it was just it was all in a central location. So
Right.
Michael,
Yeah.
are you still using StayFi for your properties, or have you gone to another strategy?
I'm using StayFi, but I'm considering maybe going away from it just because it's if I can find a cost, if I can find a way to save that cost, it's great, because that's not a cost. You can't bill a client for StayFi. And it's yeah, all of those tech costs add up. That's part of that. As you grow, those costs grow as well. You don't just grow with no extra cost.
Right. Yeah. I it didn't work for me, but when I was using StayFi in the Poconos, I offered the client the opportunity to buy the software, and I would add my subscription cost into my tech fee, and then they would own all those contacts.
Yeah.
Right. So they could always
Yeah.
just take it with them if they wanted to do that. Everyone was like, nah, I'm fine. It's all right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I guess that
Most
would-
owners don't, they don't understand the value of those contacts,
right.
and of that marketing that you're putting together. And I mean, it's part of our sales pitch. It seems like people enjoy it, but when it comes to them paying the cost of that, it's not, they don't see the value in it
Right.
like you or I would.
Yeah, agreed. So besides potentially adding Notion at some point, do you think the tech stack that you have now is probably that tech stack that you'll have when you're at 15, or maybe deciding to go above 15?
Yeah, the only other thing that's on my horizon would be maybe adding open phone. I've been trying to figure out how I can, because right now we, the phone number that's available to anybody that wants to call us is our Market My STR number. That's
Mhm.
in the system. So I've been told that open phone, there's a way to link the two. If we can do that, I would like to add open phone as well.
Yeah.
Just so there's,
Can you explain for people? I don't know open phone. What would that bring you?
Open phone, obviously it's an app. It's a voice over IP. But if you had multiple users on that business line, that's what it would do.
Yeah. No, it seems like it's pretty good. I had mentioned to you, I, I think one of the things, potentially a mistake I'm doing is, Scott had mentioned earlier, 2025 might be the year of getting ready for us. But I'm kind of like trying to focus on operations just because I've been through it before, and I want to be ready to go once we do have that first client versus trying to figure it out, on the way up. But I signed up, and I'm working through Scott McGregor's No Code STR class, and he does a ton of stuff with open phone.
Okay.
That seems to work out pretty well for him. He uses Airtable. Airtable's got like everything for his entire business in it, and then through Zaps,
So
he's kicking
is he
out
using
open.
Airtable as opposed to using Notion?
Everything's in Airtable for him. He
Okay,
basically has
interesting.
like a PMS Airtable. It gets all the data, and then like everything's kind of, the Airtable's his hub, and then Zaps for everything else. It's impressive.
So is
It's
he
a lot.
zapping from Airtable to Market My STR or some kind of marketing software?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I
Jeremy,
mean,
you had you've really got an operation. So if you're like classifying basic, intermediate, advanced, or expert required knowledge to implement that kind of stuff, is that in the expert category or?
No, it's probably intermediate.
Mm,
Like you kind of, I think part of it is you kind of need to know why you're doing it too,
mm.
right? So
Jeremy,
like,
I would challenge you. I want to say a couple things before we get too far. One, your guys' discipline to taking care of the operational structure before you go to market, I admire. I am someone that has to do it in the moment.
mhm,
So from watching you guys build out what you're building out, I know it feels like you're going too slow, but I believe you guys are going to be able to hit the ground running and execute far above anybody in that market, and especially from already operating down there.
Your
right.
mouth
Oh, I
to
appreciate
God's
that.
ears, Michael.
And I think for me, it stems from fear of operational failure, right? Like we
Yeah,
spend all that time to get that client, we're up and running, and it's, a bunch of stuff just doesn't work out the way we want it to. And, that first client's going to be, that first one is going to be so important for us. So I want to make sure we do it right.
and they're going to be so overserved, and I 100%
Yeah.
hope they realize that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just wanted to mention that because I think it's really important. And I believe we have a I'm trying to think of the term. It just a bias, a bias of thinking that something like Airtable is simple,
Mhm.
or not as advanced as it truly is. I think the average person that comes into this industry, trying to solve those tech problems is what blocks a lot of people, and
Right.
what blocks them. They might grow super fast, but then it goes to chaos because they haven't figured that tech piece out. So
I'm
Right.
absolutely in agreement with that, Michael. And I think what Jeremy is underestimating or underappreciating about what he's done is like, I kind of liken, or the analogy I have about getting to a destination is a set of stairs, and the stairs may be 50 stairs high. If you're on stair 1 and the success is 50 stairs high, you're like, that is impossible. But here Jeremy is now standing on stair 26, and stair 50 doesn't look so hard, or he's just at a different vantage point where his definition of intermediate's different from the person who's standing on stair 1. So I'm totally with you.
100%.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I know we've had these conversations, but I've also talked to enough people that are in the business here in this region that, you know, when I start talking about the different pieces of tech, you know, even myself, I don't give enough credit to what the understanding is, because someone else looks at it and they get their brain gets short circuited and they get overwhelmed. You know, that's one of those things for Patty and I that's been great, where, you know, Patty is an executor. She's amazing at design. I can slow down and understand the logical tech side of things and the data side, as you know, obviously, as well as the marketing side. But that's what's made us a good pair. I think that's what's making, you know, you and Scott a great pair as well. And, you know, you just gotta give yourself more credit for how advanced some of that stuff is.
Yeah. And look, I mean, it is definitely a big learning curve. I would say if anybody's interested in learning Notion, I've just been using the free, I was for a while using the free version, and just using it in my day to day, right? Just like my to-do lists and different things like that. And it kind of, I think, helped to expedite my learning curve there. So now I can go ahead and build out a system, or use the system that I got from STR Secrets for a business.
Well,
And then
my
what I do
nugget,
like about Airtable and the possibilities there is, if you need a tool and none of the technology out there is really what you're looking for, you can just build it. Right. You can build what you need.
yeah,
Most
it's
likely.
so incredible what we
So,
have access to.
yeah. So, all right. So that's technology. I was going to go into guest experience a little bit here, but, you know, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there of, like, you know, being good hosts, right? Just making sure that's, like, above all something that you're doing. So I think you're going to continue to separate yourself, you know, as you grow. One of the things, you know, I'm going to try and figure out as we grow is how to standardize things across properties. That was one of the bigger problems that I had. And the Poconos was, you know, you didn't really have necessarily the same stuff at one house you did the other, because this owner had bought 50,000 bottles of this type of body wash that they want to use, you know, and you can kind of couldn't make it the same experience from house to house.
It's
So I think that's, yeah.
I'd say that's a big challenge in the business. And it's other people's, it's these owners' appetite for investing in those things, right? Some of them that cost, they don't bat an eye at. Some of them, I mean, you can feel, you know, that you can feel their jaw hit the floor when you talk about spending that money. And as you're growing, it's really hard to say no to somebody that doesn't want to meet your standards.
Right.
I do think, you know, like, it's a game time decision. Like, is this something we're willing to add to the complexity of our operation for? Or do we want to say no, knowing that it's going to save us time? There's times I wish I would have said no, knowing that what I was robbing myself in the future. But at the same time, we're not.
You needed
Yeah,
it.
you have to say yes at
Right.
certain
And I think
times.
Scott and I are gonna be in the same boat, right? Maybe that first one comes along, may not be ideally perfect for us, but idea of us saying no at the moment seems kind of far fetched.
Yeah.
But cool. I think that was most of the stuff that I was looking to hit on. I'll go ahead and, you know, throw it over to Scott. You know, he's got a
All right,
few
Michael,
things.
this is the rapid fire round. Are you ready?
Oh boy.
All
Hold on.
right. So what we're going to do here is we are going to go total straight social media focus, rapid fire Q&A, so that we can turn some of this stuff into stuff that you can use, and we can pass along to people who should know you. So that's what we're going to do. 30-second answers on average would be great. I'll give you the question. You give us the answer. Everybody can benefit from you giving a lot of answers here in a short period of time. Okay, you ready?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's go. So first of all, who is the typical guest in Lake Tahoe? What
Typical
kind of
guest in
person
Lake.
visits?
Yeah. So Tahoe is family travelers. They're going up for it. Funny enough, summer bookings are bigger than larger bookings. You have a higher seasonality in summer than you do winter. So they're either going up to ski in the winter or have get some snow time in the winter. And in the summer, they're getting away from the valley heat and up to the mountains around Lake Tahoe to go hiking, cycling, go on the lake if they have a boat, all that stuff.
Where do the majority of the travelers to Lake Tahoe come from?
I would say the majority of Lake Tahoe travelers are either Bay Area, Central Valley. They could be coming from parts of Nevada.
So, what trends are you seeing, especially 2025, 2026 going forward, that STR owners in and around Lake Tahoe should be paying attention to?
Oof, that's a good one. I mean, I think STR owners need to be paying attention to optimization first and foremost. If they're self-hosting, they need to understand guest experience. It's changing, and it's changing rapidly. If you look at the way people are investing in amenities on property, you just got to be paying attention to it, and you have to do it smart, because I don't think ROI is there for everything. And I would say, the third thing from what I see in Tahoe is, just maintenance. The biggest level of complaints in Tahoe is lack of maintenance, hot tubs not working. It's hard to deal with, but you see some rodent and insect issues pretty often, and negative complaints, but just working with someone that cares about guest experience and is following through on it. I think there's a lot of lack of follow through.
Michael, what I love about your why and why you and your wife are in Lake Tahoe is because it's part of your love story. And I know that's why a part of why it makes the market so special. But what else about the market makes it so special? And then how do you highlight that for guests coming to Lake Tahoe?
I mean, Tahoe will always have a special piece of my heart. I lived up there for a couple of years. In my time, being able to ski during the day, you can go to Old Town Truckee or dine on the lake. In the winter, it's just a magical place to be. There's things like, and these are things we love to share with people. It's part of the marketing that we send when they check out. But going above Incline Village and going to Chickadee Ridge, where you can hike in the snow less than half a mile and have birds land on your hand and eat right from your hand is, we've taken our kids to go do it. They love it. It's a great experience for families. All seasons you can enjoy Tahoe. In the summer,
What's
being
your
on the
favorite
boat.
season?
Ooh, it used to be winter. I would say summer is now my favorite season up there. I love spending 4th of July in Tahoe. Either Patty's family has a cabin on Donner Lake. We love being on Donner Lake for 4th of July, watching the fireworks from the boat, road biking, mountain biking, hiking. It's just an amazing place to be.
It's a year-round place to go now.
Absolutely. And to me, the best seasons of Tahoe are the shoulder seasons. When I lived up there,
season, I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah. So the shoulder season in our industry would be those slower seasons where you have less revenue, less occupancy, fall, and think, between spring and
So
summer.
wait a minute, let me get this straight. Shoulder seasons might be a great time for a family to get a deal. Is that right? Going to
It's an amazing time to get a great deal. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it's the best weather. It's the best time to get outside. Spring skiing is amazing. If people like to ski or snowboard, I love, those corn cycles of skiing where it's a little bit icy in the day and it's still as fun as it warms up.
Well, we said rapid fire. That was a lot slower than rapid
is
fire.
there a peak?
Sorry about that.
Is there a peak? Is summer or winter a peak? Like, is there one peak season?
Summer is a bigger percentage of revenue. Off the top of my head, I cannot remember, but summer revenue is much higher in Tahoe than winter revenue is.
Yeah,
but you cannot win the year and not win winter, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
So for someone listening who is brand new to short-term vacation rentals, whether that's an owner or someone who might want to manage properties, what's the one thing they should do right away to set themselves up for success?
I would say no marketing. No, be able to market. Understand how to take the right photos and stand out with your photos, how to optimize on the platform, and how to retarget your guests, which they can't do without Market My STR.
That's success oriented. What's the most common mistake you're seeing property owners make?
The most common mistake I would say is not investing enough into setting the property up. Um, you know, having the right, and it sounds so dumb, but having the right linens and the right towels and having, buying enough cups and plates and not cheaping out when it comes to the right couch, or just shopping on the deal that, the, it, everybody looks at the biggest piece of picking the right property, but it has to be set up right.
What is your favorite part about staying with the Saades?
Oh, seeing people that love their experience when they stay at a property that we host. It's the best part. It's I think for me, coming from a sales and marketing background at Red Bull and being able to see the experience that we gave consumers at a Red Bull event, or when they got given a can of Red Bull in a surprising way, I get that same fulfillment when guests get that from staying at our properties.
Nice. If you had to sum up your philosophy as a co-host rental manager in a couple of sentences, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I would say just doing the right thing, like caring about the guest and the owner first, and obviously with a fiduciary, with a mindset of not giving the house away. But if you take good care of the guest and do what's right for the owner, the rest of it is there. You're building the business in the right way. But if we're not doing what's right for those two important pillars of how you build the business, you can't do it doesn't exist.
So, Michael, where are you actively taking clients right now?
We're actively taking clients, in Tahoe, really focused on Truckee, North Lake Tahoe. So anywhere from Tahoma all the way into Carnelian Bay, not Carnelian Bay, all the way into Incline Village. So
what's the best way for someone to get a hold of you?
they could look me up on Instagram at Michael Raja _RAJA. Or they could just go to staywiththesaades.com and they can contact us there.
And you're also on Facebook?
Also on Facebook, Michael Saade. Yep. Or Stay with
Jeremy,
Saades.
Close it out for us.
So I know the goal is to get to 15, but over the next, at some point you're going to get to 15. Over the next 6 to 8 months, realistically, how many spots do you think you have available for new clients?
Over the next 6 to 8 months, I can't take more than about 5 on, maybe 6.
Right, so everybody's hearing it here. They better hurry up.
Yeah.
Spot for 5.
Well, that's it for us, guys. This is the end of this episode. Part 1. Part 2's coming soon. Michael, man, you are the man. I love you. I appreciate you joining us. Any parting words that we may have forgot to ask?
Oh, it's been an honor to be here and be a part of a tribe with you guys. I don't think there's anything important other than we just want to help serve guests and owners and have some fun in the meantime.
Other people in the industry.
Right? Yeah, let's go. All right, everybody. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Michael.